Bye. My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home.
Welcome back to another episode of DUK Dogs. I'm your host, Josh Miller. And before we get started here, let's make sure we go ahead and thank our fantastic partners. So thank you to Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend that I feed my food, or my dog. The blend of food. Well, it's going to be a long episode if it's going to be like this. It's the blend of food that I feed my dogs at the kennel. 3020, 2616 is also a good blend if you have a dog that maybe just doesn't need as much pop to him. But Eukanuba is a fantastic food, and I cannot say enough good things about it. Our dogs, their energy level, their coat, their recovery, just across the board, I'm so happy with that. So go check them out, www.eukanuba.com. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is your one-stop shop for the premium clothing, both in the field and your everyday. But let's talk about the in-the-field stuff. I'm actually currently wearing my new ambient hoodie. You have to go check this thing out. It is comfy, it is cozy, and it has the active insulation that you can sweat, and it's going to pull that sweat away from you so that you don't freeze. When you're setting up decoys, you're sweating. When you sit in the blind, you will likely freeze. This is a great layer for that, so go check that out, www.sitkagear.com. Thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test ready kennel, both in the intermediate and the large size. I'm going to tell you about a little project I have going on with a few large kennels here in a little bit. So www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs for your four-legged hunting partner. I'm actually going to be hunting with the owner of Gun Dog Supply, and Rob Snell, next week in North Dakota. So get to see them. They're just fantastic people. I love them to death. So www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent is your premium shotgun shells that you are going to absolutely love in the field. I've been shooting Kent for years before we had a formal relationship here, and the reason is because it is just a great product and great people inside that company. So I'm shooting the Bismuth. I'm also shooting the Fast Steel 2.0, both fantastic products. So go check them out. Kent Cartridge. And last but not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium online gun dog, I was going to say school, but it's your online program that will help you step by step go through your training at home, give you the guidance to be successful while training your dog. So www.retrieverroadmap.com. So first, if this episode is anything like the intro was there, as I'm like fumbling through that, I'm going to apologize in advance. Hopefully it's not one of those. This is a Monday. It is Victory Monday. If you didn't know it, if you are a follower of this podcast, that you are by nature going to be even if it's just a bandwagon, you're going to be a bandwagon Jaguars fan, because we are having a fantastic start to the season. And if this continues to happen, I'm at least going to throw out my Victory Mondays any chance that I can. So I am super pumped up. Not only did we beat two good teams, but this last game against the Chargers, I mean, think about this. We have scored, I think it's 58 or 50 or almost 60 points, and we've given up 10 in the last two games. That's fantastic. I'm stoked. I'm so excited. So I just had to throw that plug in there. Victory Monday. Love that. But so here's something that's kind of interesting. Before I kind of get into what I'm going to talk about here today, because we have a few things to go over. We're heading into what is going to be the meat of our season. I've kind of considered up to this point preseason ish, dove season, early teal season. Yeah, it's a great way to ease into it, but now we're going to get into it. Now it's going to be our first trip to North Dakota. We're really going to start getting into our duck season really heavy. It's going to really kick off here next week, and I have a project I'm working on. I'm going to fill you guys in on. But one thing I've started to do is I've started to listen to podcasts. It's really interesting because you would think, because I have a podcast of my own, that I would be a big podcaster, and I'm really not. I really enjoy talk radio. I actually, a lot of times when I'm traveling long distances, I'm listening to audiobooks. I love audiobooks. I love, it's a way that I can, read without actually having to sit down to read, because when I've got 8, 10, 14 hours in the truck, I can get through almost an entire book or multiple books, depending on how good it is and how into it I am. So it's a great way that I can kind of stay in touch. It doesn't replace reading. I still think there's a lot to be said about just that mental stimulation of sitting down to read. But when I have a really good book with some good info, I just don't like wasting, a full day sitting in the truck. So I like being productive that way. But I've started listening to some podcasts, and there's a couple of things that I think are really are standing out to me. So I'm trying to learn is where I'm going with this. I'm trying to learn and be like, hey, well, how can I be better? How can I make my show better? What are some things I like and I don't like? And, there's a couple of things that really stand out, to me. The first one being, no, don't reach for anything, right? The volume was good. Your connection was good, but I'm shocked at how often there is someone that talks. First off, did I get you? Did I get you? But there's so often that someone's talking, and all of a sudden there's just this long pause, and that's what I do. I look at my phone, I'm like, did I lose connection? What's going on with my volume? Like, what in the world? Like, it's in some shows it is repetitive, and I'm just like, my gosh, like, it's one of those. So that was a big pet peeve. Another pet peeve was shows that obviously aren't prepared for. So I don't come on here and just wing whatever it is I'm going to talk about. Like, I have my notebook, I have my points I'm going to talk about. If there has to be any research or any work that goes into this, like, I'm doing that before I get on here. Like, I'm not just completely winging this thing. And it's because my time is valuable and your time is valuable. And I'm not going to sit here and waste your time by me just wandering, willy-nilly all over the place about nothing, right? So, but I'm learning, right? This is me kind of digging into my craft. I've never thought about the podcast as my craft. I thought this was just kind of an add-on thing. But this is something I really want to dedicate to and get more of. I want more of this. I want to dig in deeper. I want to be able to have more episodes and reach more people. And like, that's a big thing for me. I want to do that. But in order for me to do that, I have to dedicate to getting better at it. So that was kind of part of my research. And it's just really interesting to me. So would love any feedback, positive, negative, indifferent. There are things I'm doing that you like, things that you don't like, any recommendations. One thing that has been kind of up there has been some people have asked if I'd ever bring guests on. And to be quite frank, I would love to, because it is not easy to sit in my room here and talk to myself for 30, 60, 90 minutes, whatever it is, right? Like, I'm sitting here talking to myself, right? And so I'd love to have a conversation piece. The hard part is, so today, I'm doing this on a Monday morning, but it is cold, rainy, and windy here in western Wisconsin. And so it's a great time for me to be able to say, hey, I'm not going to be working my dogs right now. I'm going to go get this done. But sometimes it could be 11 o'clock midnight. Sometimes it could be, 4:30 in the morning. So my schedule is the hard part. And that's why I've really kind of been hesitant on bringing guests on, because I just don't know, like, when can I set aside the time to sit down and do this? Now, that may change, like, as I dedicate more to this. So, I would kind of be interested there on some thoughts. But if there's any feedback, I would love that because, like I said, I want to continue to improve on this. So, so make sure to shoot me a note on Instagram, shoot me a note on Facebook, shoot me an email, josh@riverstonekennels.com. Whatever it is, but I'd love the feedback. So thank you guys for that. So, what I have today is, so first off, I'm going to tell you about this little project I have going on. And then I have a couple notes here that have been pretty consistent questions. As you can probably imagine, especially via social, I get a lot of questions on a daily basis. Questions now that we're in season, a lot of questions of, very specific situations that happen on a hunt or situations that came up that, how do I fix this? How do I create this where I can train on it? Things like that. If you're one of those people, please bear with me a little bit because I've been trying to do a better job of not feeling like I have to answer people right away. That's something I'm really trying to dedicate my family time as my family time, put the phone away. I've been doing a great job at that. Last week I did a really good job at it, and here's why. If you guys have listened to any episodes that Brett is on, Brett does all the videography with me for Retriever Roadmap, so he's periodically up here and does a lot of filming. And one thing that he has really been trying to do is catch his first muskie, which he has had a lot of opportunities. But it's been something that every time we have the opportunity, we get out. So last week, it was probably Tuesday, Wednesday last week, something like that. We're out fishing, and Whitney, my wife, and my kids were in the cabin, and we're out, and on our lake, there is some, once in a while, there's float planes that come in and out of our lake, which the kids just love watching. So we're fishing, and I'm watching, and I see all of a sudden this pontoon plane come out and is going to take off, right? So I'm like, oh shoot, with the wind, I know he's going to take off. He's going to go right over our dock, so I'm going, and I have my rod, my musket rod in one hand. I have my phone that I'm pulling out of my pocket. When I'm pulling it out, of course, I'm trying to go way too fast. Phone falls, literally bounces on the seat, and that seat might as well have been a trampoline because it shot it in the air. I don't know how. Bloonk. And there goes the phone. So I was, I think, 4 or 5 days without a phone. Maybe not that much. Maybe it was 3 or 4. But it was a fantastic 3 or 4 days to just have time, to not feel like I have to. You'll be getting back to people right away, to not feel like that was great. I need to find a way to better manage that on my end. But it's funny how sometimes situations like that can kind of slap you in the face. Like, hey, now you don't have a choice. Now you can't be on the phone. Now you can't, so so that was great. But it did kind of open my eyes to that of like, hey, you don't have to do this right away. Like, it'll be there in a couple hours. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there. So I've really been trying to dig into that and challenge myself to that. So, but a lot of these messages on social, they have trends. And so there's 3 that have really come up that I want to talk about. But before I talk about that, let me tell you about the project I have going on. So I just bought a new decoy trailer. And I sold my last decoy trailer before last year. And the plan was to get a new one. And, of course, kind of, in the early stages of COVID, and all of a sudden it was like you couldn't find an enclosed trailer. And if you could find one, it was way overpriced. So I just wasn't gonna buy one. So I went all last season without a decoy trailer. It was an absolute pain because I'm trying to pile decoys in the bed of my truck, and if I do that, where are the dogs? Okay, so now I got to pull the dog trailer. Well, the dog trailer, though it's great for carrying dogs, is not great for carrying a ton of other stuff, right? So it was just difficult because things were out of necessity being left behind because we didn't have room. So I'm trying to quickly prepare for next week. Next week is when we're going to leave to North Dakota. This coming weekend is actually North Dakota non-resident opener, but my son Colt turns he turns 2 on the 3rd, and so we're going to be here for his birthday. That's important. and then we're gonna go on the 4th, and we're gonna head out to Nodak. So, but I'm trying to get this trailer ready. But I'm being intentional of how I'm building this trailer, and I'm documenting the whole thing. I think some of you guys may find this interesting, of like, how I'm building this out, why I'm doing what, and then what I'm also planning on doing is I'm also planning on bringing this to shows. So if we go to a game fair, to a pheasant fest, to a Wisconsin waterfowl, whatever it is, bringing the trailer, and that can kind of be our booth, and then you can see inside, you can kind of see what we have going on, and I think it'd be kind of a neat thing. So if you're interested in that, make sure you follow along on Riverstone Kennels. I think we're going to do it on our YouTube page, but we're also going to do some stuff on Instagram, Facebook too, to kind of lead you to where, if you are interested in that, you can find it. But it's all this stuff, right? Like, we as waterfowlers, we have so much stuff, right? Like something like a trailer. Like, how many of you have a trailer or have a buddy's trailer that you look at and you're like, there's no organization, there's no rhyme or reason to what is where, right? Like, I need it to be organized. Like, that is something that is a huge deal to me. Like, I cannot have things just be piled and shoved, and like I mentally can't handle it. Like, I need organization. And so I'm organizing this thing. Hopefully it'll look, really nice, but it'll be a way that you can kind of follow along and see what we're doing. So that's my project. That's what I have going on. So let's get into some of these common questions. And I have 3 of them listed here that I think would be good ones to go over. So the first one is a really interesting one to me. Because I feel like it's completely controllable, but I'm going to put ourselves in the dog's shoes here and make us kind of look a little deeper into what's going on, because this happens a lot. And the question revolves around aggression in the field. Okay, so dogs getting aggressive towards each other in the field. So let's kind of break this down. The first thing that I see, and I don't understand why this is, okay, but the first thing I see that is the first red flag that something is going to go on is that when you're out and you're brushing blinds and you're setting decoys and it's obviously in the dark, right? Like why do the dogs need to be running around? Why do the dogs need to be, quote unquote, blowing off steam or exercising, right? Like if your dog needs to exercise, I'm going to be blunt here. If you're the dog guy or gal in your group, that's your responsibility. Does that mean you have to get up, an extra half hour earlier than everybody else? Yeah, probably. But that's your responsibility, right? So what happens is, again, let's put ourselves in the dog's shoes. It is dark. The dog doesn't know where he is. I'm going to say he because most of the time it's the boys that have these issues, right? So he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know who all these people are. He knows he's jacked up and excited because everybody else is. He's running around like crazy, completely out of control. And then comes around the corner and he's face to face with another boy, and boys will be boys. They're going to bow up. They're going to see who's the big guy. They're going to try to act tough. And that's when a fight happens. It's completely avoidable. Right? So for me, what I do, my dogs are always, so again, I'm trying to be the responsible dog owner. I exercise and air my dogs out before the hunt. The dogs stay in their crates, in the truck, in the trailer, wherever it is, until we're all set. And then I go and I park the trucks and I walk back. Okay? That walk back could be partially used for some airing time, but I'm going to, as I come up to the blind, I'm going to have my dog under control, at heel, and we're going to go into our game. I think of this as like I'm walking out of the tunnel to the stadium, right? Like, it's time to get in the zone. The dog's not in the zone if he's running all over the place, right? Like, let's heel, let's be under control, let's start this game off the right way. Practice how you play, right? We're coming up to the game, let's practice. So the reason that this is so important is I've, on numerous occasions, seen dogs that we're walking up. There's one that I vividly remember from Arkansas just a couple years ago. And I watched all this happen. Like, again, my dog is in the crate, in the truck. We get done brushing, we get done setting decoys, we get done all this stuff. And I watched, this was a big group, and I was invited on this hunt, so I didn't even know everybody there, but one person had this wire hair there that was like, just run around, and the whole time you could just tell like this dog was a bit out of control, right? And kind of a bit edgy. So we parked the trucks, we're walking back, and it was my buddy's next, dog is running up ahead, and I was like, you really should be careful, because that dog's probably gonna snap at, I can't remember his dog's name, can't remember, but it was a female. He's gonna snap at her, so just be careful. He's like, all right, and that was it. I'm like, I don't know if he really understands me here, but I said my piece and I'm gonna let it go, right? And again, it's dark, so now she runs in the blind. So now there's this edgy dog in a confined area, and now all of a sudden has a dog right there. The next thing we heard, and we're at this point, we're 80 to 100 yards away, we hear, rah, yeah, rah, 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 screaming from in the blind. Then you hear people yelling, because now this is happening right at everyone's feet, right? This is so controllable. Keep the dogs under control. There's just really no reason not to, right? Keep the dogs under control. You avoid arguments, you avoid fights, you avoid injuries, you avoid a lot of things, right? And fights, now there's going to be an argument between the two owners, right? Because naturally, everyone wants to be defensive about their dog. Whose fault was it? Whose dog has to get out of here? Who's upset? Like, my gosh, can we just leave that stuff out of it? This is the reality. If you're the dog handler in your group, you have a lot of extra responsibilities that are on that hunt that nobody else has. And quite frankly, I believe this is one of the major reasons that a lot of people are not the dog handlers in the group. Who else wants that responsibility? The dog making or breaking the hunt, the dog ruining the hunt, the dog being out of a frustration to be around. You don't want to be, no one wants to be that guy. No one wants to have that extra responsibility. They want to show up. They want to joke with their buddies. They want to pull the trigger. They want to smile for a picture. They want to go home. Right? Naturally, you have more responsibility. So that kind of leads me to my next point is just simply being the dog handler in your group and what that means. The responsibility that you naturally take on. Okay. And one of the things that I've seen now a number of times is people, I think that generally speaking, most people and most of you listening, you know that already. You understand that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. You wouldn't have been buying into that I need to be training all summer. You wouldn't be buying into that I need to sit and watch my dog and not shoot, which is going to be my next point. You understand that, hey, I'm sitting my dog out because they're not ready to be here yet. Right? Like you know this. Like you are being responsible. But part of being responsible as the dog handler in the group is reading the situation. Okay, so like in this case, okay, I'm going to be a responsible dog handler, but I can't always control what the other dog handler does. So how do you handle that situation? I just had a client that called me that had a North Dakota non-resident opener here last weekend. Or, I'm sorry, resident, non-resident this coming week. So resident opener. So he got to hunt. He's a North Dakota resident, and he had his dog. I trained the dog. The dog's great. He takes the dog home. His dog was fantastic. He said completely steady, marked everything, took his cast. He's like, he looked like he'd been doing this for 20 years. Like he was just like, obviously 20 is an exaggeration, but those were the words he used. He said it was fantastic. But then the next day, somebody else brought a dog that wasn't under control. So now this dog's running around the blind. Now this dog's breaking. This dog's literally just walking around in between volleys. He's like, and he has a young dog. I think he's 2, something like that. And he's like, that was hard on him because now he's got to sit here and he's got to watch. Like he doesn't understand, why can't I go play? Why can't I go run around? Why is he breaking, right? And those are the situations you're gonna have to deal with, right? So how do you deal with them? I'm not gonna tell you how to deal with them because that's on you. What do you see as the best situation? Because like for him, he's like, man, it's tough because like I'm not going to tell him he can't bring his dog. Well, you would hope in this case that this individual would recognize that, look, my buddy's put in a ton of time and a ton of work and has a big standard for his dog, and my dog is screwing that up. You would think. But I've been around enough to know most people don't think that way. Or if they do, they're not respectful enough to actually detach their dog from the situation. So how do you handle that? I think as you go into these hunts, like oftentimes you can have a plan and you can know that it's coming. Make a game plan. Have a talk beforehand. Have a talk. That's what I told this guy who's a client but a very good friend. I was like, look, I think next time just have a talk with him. Just say, man, like I've got a ton of time and a ton of money invested in this dog. Here are my standards. I just don't want to regress because your dog's run around. So can we figure something out? Can you tether your dog, into the blind? Is there something? Right now, my last point here, which kind of ties into this too, right? And all of this is going to somewhat tie into each other because we're into season, right? So a lot of this is season situational stuff. But why is it so difficult for people to not shoot? I don't get that one. But it seems to be a very common trend. I've gotten so many messages on social media. And the big thing is that the dog is breaking. That the dog, let's just use breaking because there's a lot of situations, but breaking is going to be the big one. Okay. And when I ask the question is, okay, is he breaking on the shot? Is he breaking on, someone calling the shot? Where's he breaking? And it's, I don't know because I'm shooting. Well, there's the issue number one, right? If you can't tell me what's even causing the problem, then how can you fix it? So a lot of times they'll say, well, you have to not shoot. You have to focus on the dog. And it's unbelievable, actually, how many times the response is, well, I'm there to hunt. Okay, well, guess what? You can't have it both ways. I don't have a magic wand that can tell you, hey, order this on Amazon, bippity-boppity-boo, issue is over, here you go, right? You need to take some ownership in this. You need to say, hey, maybe I don't get to shoot. Like I told the one guy, if you're going to dedicate to not shooting and you get to hunt because his issue was I only get to hunt, maybe once every couple weeks. Okay, that's fine. You may go all season without shooting. And he's like, well, like that kind of be a boring season. I'm like, okay, then don't bring the dog. Well, that's the whole reason I got the dog is because, okay, then you need to dedicate to fixing this. It's everybody wants an answer, but nobody wants the ownership of actually having to take the action to solve the issue of what they're wanting the answer for, right? And when I say everybody, again, I'm not talking about you guys because you just simply being into this podcast, that shows that you are involved in this, right? You're dedicated. You understand it. You think about the dog. You put yourself in the dog's shoes. You're a situational thinker. Those things are all so important to building the success. But I wish, I wouldn't do this for privacy reasons, but I wish in the worst way I could share with you guys the messages that I get. And of course, there's all free advice that people are wanting, right? But it's like I can give you the answer and you'll find a reason why that can't work, right? Why I want to shoot. Well, too bad. The not shooting thing doesn't do it for me at all. I mean, if this is what I think is wrong with waterfowl hunting. I think it's for a lot of people, it's all about pulling a trigger. It's all about trying to stack a pile. It's all about taking a picture. And that is the exact reason why you will not see pile pictures on my social media channels is because I think that is exactly the opposite thing of why we're there. We're there, to me, for the camaraderie in the blind, for the communication with the birds, watching these birds do very incredible things, watching these dogs be in the element in which they were bred for, watching them do very incredible things. The trigger pull to me is anticlimactic. It's a means to an end. If I need dogs to get retrieves, and if for some reason my buddies are just shooting very poorly, or we have minimal number of shooters, okay, I'm shooting. But I've also put in a ton of work with my dogs to make sure that I can shoot. If I have a young dog, if I have a dog that I'm redshirting, if I have a dog that I'm working something out with, I'm not shooting. My focus is on them. But this seems to be one of those topics that for some reason people really struggle with. So if you are in a group, if you're with some people, if you just have someone you know that is struggling with this is the one thing I would urge them to do, is to leave the gun at home. Because if they bring the gun to the blind, they're going to want to pull a trigger. If you leave it in the truck, if you leave it at home, you can't shoot. Now you have to have your focus dedicated on the dog. But it is so common. But the aggression in the field, all of these, they are all controllable. Control what you can control, right? We've talked about that a lot. When you go on a hunt, you can't control the weather, you can't control the birds, you can't control a lot of things. But everything we've talked about, you can control. So focus on what you can control. So I know it's a quick one here today, but I have a lot that I'm trying to get done today because we leave a week from tomorrow for Arkansas. So keep an eye out for that trailer project. I think you guys may find that interesting. And I'm going to try to come back to you guys here maybe another time this week before we head out. And then we'll be talking then on the road, which will be really fun. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for being here with me this week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.